I'm Dean Newland, and welcome to Leadovation. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. This podcast is dedicated to the art and science of innovative leadership. Through insightful interviews with industry experts, I bring you cutting-edge strategies and experiences of innovative leadership, helping you think differently, act strategically, and achieve remarkable results. Join me as I provide insights and tools that empower you to make smarter decisions, forge meaningful relationships. Welcome to Leadovation. At 14 years old, Pankaj, also known as Singh, was the kind of kid who fought you if you made eye contact and then would fight you if you didn't. His mind was loud, restless, and unfocused. So his parents did something really bold. They sent him alone to a remote monastery in Tibet to live and train with a lama. Again, this is a 14-year-old kid. 3 days into this little experience, he sat in silence, no talking, no distractions, just the freezing Himalayan wind and the deafening noise of his own thoughts. And then something broke open. He cried. He breathed. He began to listen. And over the next 2.5 months, Singh began to transform from a hyperactive boy into a mindful young man. And that experience became the foundation for everything he would later teach and live. Fast forward to 2020, as the CTO of a company in the middle of a global pandemic, Singh faced a massive ransomware attack, but instead of panic, he brought calm. Instead of chaos, he brought clarity. And it stunned people. Why weren't you freaking out, they said. The answer, he had trained for his entire life to be able to be this kind of mindful. In this episode, we explore the micro practices that Singh teaches that take less than just a minute, but change everything. His mindful leadership compass, a tool for moving from autopilot to intentional leadership. And now breathing, focus, and presence can help us lead with compassion, clarity, and courage, whether you're in a boardroom, a crisis, or simply strolling or scrolling on your phone. Singh is a visionary leader who spent over 20 years revolutionizing businesses and building high-performing teams. As a former C-suite executive, he's driven double-digit growth, streamlined operations, and transformed organizations worldwide. His real superpower comes from something unexpected. Again, mindfulness. Singh, or Pankaj Singh, I should say, on the Leadovation podcast. Good to see you all the way from the other side of the country in probably a relatively hot summer is already here, Jacksonville, Florida. And I was drawn to you and your wanting to be on the podcast as well, because I think you've got an interesting background, and I want to hear what brought you to your perspective on mindfulness, and why is it so important? I think a lot of us come to that realization that that's important, but how we get there is very unique. What was your unique path to get to there?
It was a little deflected path which kind of came back front and center in 2020. I was chief technology officer at a company, and we had a ransomware attack.
A ransom attack?
Yeah, a ransomware attack.
Wow.
And we were able to come out of it in less than 48 hours without paying ransom or anything like that. And and that was peak of COVID period, people are working from home and all those things. So not getting the deep logistics. What happened after that, I got invited to talk on a few technical seminars and webinars and stuff like that. And about 4 or 5 interviews in, I started thinking about why people asking the same basic question, things that come so naturally to me, that I was not panicking, I was not doing this, I was not doing that. Long story short, I started looking back into my life, right? Bless you. Where I have been.
Thank you.
where I have
I
been
had to
and
put it on mute there. Sorry, go ahead, keep going.
where I have been and what I've done. So my journey into mindfulness started at a very early age. I was again, I'm aging myself because back in the day, all these different acronyms of physicians giving pills was not available for people who could not focus, kids who could not focus. Right.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was one of that kid growing up, and the very first thing I got introduced by my parents was Indian percussion, and this is at age
Indian.
percussion.
Okay.
Percussion, the hand instrument that you play with hand,
Okay, got it.
right? And I did my postmasters in tabla, that is one of the Indian instruments, at age of 13, but I was still not able to center myself. I was
So
not
you've
able to.
got this. So you've got this kid who, in our vernacular back in the day, would say he's hyperactive. He's just a boy.
Right,
He's got ADHD.
right,
So we
mhm,
kind of label you that way.
right.
And then you find this. Was it an Indian
Instrument,
instrument that you?
right,
Yeah. Okay. You got super good at it,
right,
but
and
you still couldn't focus.
right.
Okay.
So right around age of 14, that summer, my parents had me go to Tibet and train under a lama for 2.5
Ah.
months. So
Wow.
that was the beginning of my mindful journey, spiritual journey, however you want to call it. Fast forward, when I came to US, I did my MBA in 2020 in Connecticut, and then very quickly I got into a very senior role in. At that time, I was 24-year-old, already a partner with one of the capital ventures that capital partners that got sold to Bank of America later in 2007. But I was 24-year old. I got responsibility as a managing partner of a manufacturing unit in Southern Illinois. I believe the population of town would be about 20,000, 25,000, maybe.
Pretty small.
And I was the only colored person in there, if you will. And very first week, I came in on Tuesday. I took over. Friday was a payroll day, and right around right around 2:30, uh, none of those paychecks were getting in cash at the bank. Come to find out, there was a clerical error when we did the paperwork. There was some clerical error, and the bank would not honor the checks.
Oh no.
Uh, in less than 30 minutes, I had 300 families outside the compound of the manufacturing unit and almost a scene of chaos. And even at that age, I was able to work with the sheriff, converted that whole episode into a feast by having some of those local people come and get food for these people. On the back end, I'm already working with the bank to get everything released. By the time they finished their lunch, they could drive back and sheriff escorted everyone in line and everything to get their checks paid. Long story short, I started capturing these instances, and all the way through 2020, there are two things that I identified. One, I never used the word mindfulness, but I have been practicing my life in that way. And every single team that I had managed over that span of 20 years, um, I have taught them. So I would typically start a meeting and have everybody just think for 30 seconds two simple questions. What do you want individually and as a group from this meeting?
Hmm.
And if you were not in this meeting, what else you would be doing?
Question. I love the first one. I'm confused about the second one. Tell me why that one is an important mindfulness question.
In today's environment, or at least for the last 20 years, what I've seen is people will show up for the meeting even if they don't have any intention to contribute in the meeting. So,
Agreed.
right? So if you're not contributing to that meeting, do you really need to be here, or can you be productive somewhere else?
Is then the answer to that question, what would you be doing if you're not here,
Mhm.
a springboard into, well, then maybe you shouldn't be here. And why don't you go do
Go do
that
that.
which you,
Exactly.
yeah, got it.
Exactly. And so this particular question for last 2 years, I've been using both with high school kids and with some very successful corporate leaders to get them off digital devices. And
Ah.
the way I teach high school kids and those executives is, next time you pick up your device and start scrolling, I want you to think for 2 seconds. What is that you're trying to get from there? If you're
Hmm.
trying to learn something, fine. If you're trying to engage into something, you're burnt out, you want some kind of refresh, that's fine. There has to be a reason behind it. Because scientifically, what happens, Dean, is the moment we start naming our behavior,
Hmm.
our brain starts coming out of autopilot and starts checking it,
It's a great point there. So
right?
good. So even if I get on TikTok and I'm going like, all right, so why am I on TikTok?
Uh-huh.
I'm wanting just some mindless entertainment because I'm exhausted and I need something to check out. Okay, that's
So the
why I'm
second,
doing
so
this.
the, so the second question: what else you could be doing right now?
I could be sleeping. I could be journaling. I could be working on my
You see,
book.
see my point?
It's a
That's my
good
point.
question. I see your point.
So these kind of simple micro practices that I have incorporated in my life for 4 decades, now I see why I was so successful. And when I started, I actually published my first international bestseller last year. Another one is coming out this year. When I started looking at the 230 plus people who have been my direct report, or at least in my direct team in last 4 decades, every one of them has excelled after they had left my team.
Hmm.
And some of them are still, I engage with them once in a while, and we just have fun about these kind of exercises that I've taught them. And they will say, yeah, I missed this because I did not remember that micro exercise that you taught me.
So I have a feeling
Hmm.
you have more than one of these
So,
little micro
yeah, yeah.
exercises that maybe if we ask really nice,
So
you'd be
that's why.
willing to share.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So let's start giving your audience this, and this is part of my keynote. This is part of my workshop.
Yeah.
So first of all, in the year 2025, my goal was to get to 250,000 individuals with these micro exercises.
Hmm.
And before this podcast that you're recording with me, I have reached to 98,600 people. And the way we are recording it is, my podcast that goes live every noon on the Transformation Network, when it gets published, it's live event anyway, but when it gets published on YouTube, I put in a link for my website to start tracking that specific framework that I taught in that podcast on how many people are actually downloading it. So we look at individual
Ah,
IP address where that was used.
got it.
Right. I'm very scientific because, see, my engineering, MBA, doctoral. I mean, all my studies has been all based on science. So if anytime something comes in, so let's start giving your listeners some good goodies here. Okay. So the first one I give is mindful leadership compass. Now there can be a whole book written on this. I've not been able to encapsulate, but here is a very simple thing. Human, as our nature, we are always running on autopilot.
Yep.
And as of early this year, the reports that I saw, the span of control of an average human has dropped down to 12 seconds.
Control or focus? Do you mean the same thing?
Span of focus.
Span of focus. Okay.
Yeah. It's down to 12 seconds. So if a person gets into autopilot, if they are not engaged in 12 seconds, the question for me became, what can I give them? How can I give them these exercises that I can engage with their prefrontal cortex in that 12 seconds?
Hmm.
And I had to work through this last year for about 4 or 5 months. And one day I was in meditation and it came to me, the only thing that we take for granted, our breath, our breathing, we take it for granted, but that is the only scientific evidence of us being alive.
What about heartbeat?
It does not. If you're not breathing, if the oxygen stops going in your brain is dead.
True.
You can be in coma, but that's coma. I'm not counting coma as alive.
Got it.
You're,
Okay.
right? I'm talking about when you're conscious and alive, not sleeping, but still you're alive. You can feel things. So every micro exercise that I started with breathing exercises, and not 2 hour breathing exercises. 4 simple deep breath.
Hmm.
Anyone can do it, but the technique there is that you have to focus on your breath. The moment you do,
It's funny. As soon as you started talking about breath, I started paying attention to my breath.
exactly, that's my
Yeah.
point, right? The moment you feel your breath for 4 counts, so inhale for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, exhale for 4 counts, and hold for 4 counts. It's called box breathing, very common practice,
Yes.
right? You do it 4 times, it immediately connects and activates your prefrontal cortex, which is your logic part of your brain, right? And if you do that, you now can look at your emotions and other people's emotions in that conversation, in that instance, in that particular moment. If you can understand people's emotion, then you get cognitive clarity on what the heck you are trying to do,
Hmm.
right? Now, the decisions that you will make are going to be both intentional and compassionate because you're
That's
not
just you're not
reacting,
an
you're
automatic pilot anymore.
right.
Yeah.
So that's what I call mindful leadership compass. So the first one is presence power. That's where you take deep breath and come in the moment, which then gives you emotional agility to be able to balance your emotion and not just react to things, which then allows you to think logically because you have engaged your prefrontal cortex. So that's
Hmm.
your cognitive clarity. And the fourth one is compassionate action. So that's the first tool for your team. Second tool for your listeners is the mindful leadership compass.
Good stuff. Can I go back in
Yeah.
time a little bit because I made a little note and I wanted to come back to it. So you go to Tibet.
Hmm.
How old were you?
14.
14? How many kids would go to Tibet when they're 14 without their
I,
parents?
I didn't have choice.
So it's like, wait a minute, we're going to kick you out of the house until you figure
Yep.
out how to be focused?
Yep. Pretty much
I
it.
mean, like, so you said you studied with a Lama,
Hmm.
not the Dalai Lama, but
No,
a
one of the
Lama. Okay,
Lama.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the reason why I wanted to go back to this because it
Hmm.
sounds like it was a seed to some of the things we're
Yes.
talking about, and so I want
Yes.
to
Absolutely.
know, what was that like as a 14-year-old? I mean, hey, I'm fascinated by this. I'm not saying that this is anything like being a martial artist or likening to any scenes out of Kill Bill. I'm not saying that. I'm
No.
just saying that there's something very powerful about putting such attention to attention.
Hmm.
What was your day like as a 14-year-old studying under a llama?
The first 4 days were very miserable.
Miserable,
Yeah.
mishomed.
Not necessarily I missed home. I missed fights.
You missed
Uh,
fight?
yeah. So I was one of those kids. Yeah. I was one of those kids that would get in a fight for any reason. You cross the street. If you look in my eyes, we are having fight. If you don't look in my eyes, we are having fight. I don't care who you are.
It's kind of like my experience when I was in elementary school when West Side Story came out. They said, "Are you a jet or a shark?" And no matter how you answered, they would slug you. You were screwed either way.
Yeah. And I grew up in a very affluent family. It was a large family, right? It was not like a nuclear family. It was a large family, a lot of people. I mean, before I went to Tibet, before that journey, I don't remember living a moment alone in my life. And
Hmm.
I get there in monastery, and the first 24 hours, I didn't have anyone to talk to me. I was by myself. It was freezing like hell in the Himalayas, right?
I bet.
and nothing. It was just me and myself, and I realized how loud my head was.
Yeah.
And second day, uh, the Lama actually came, introduced himself that, hey, I'm going to be helping and mentoring you, but there's a full process that we have to go through for 3 days for you to uncover yourself. And
Hmm.
that's why we are in this mode of not talking. The second evening, the second day evening, I clearly remember I was sitting looking at the sunset over the Himalayas, and my tears just won't stop.
Hmm. Why? What was that
Uh,
about? Were you, was it
It,
just the beauty or was it sadness that hadn't been expressed? Both?
it was combination of a lot of. Even today, I get goosebumps when I think about those 3 4 days. It was combination of a lot of things, right? Think about it. If I give you a program today, which we have now, a program today to try to understand what is your default reaction mechanism, it typically gets fermented between that age of 12 and 18.
Hmm.
And even today at 40, 50, 60 years, when I'm working with people and when they're uncovering their blockage, they're having so much emotional overdrain. Think about
Hmm.
a 14-year kid being given that treatment and that exercise. I'm blessed for it. I'm not, no complaints. I'm blessed that I did that.
Yeah.
Uh, but on those 2 days, I didn't know. I didn't have any expression except for tears. I would sit there and cry and cry and cry without any reason.
Yeah. Well, if you were a fighter, they looked at you, you fought them. They didn't look at you, you fought
Mhm.
them. What's the opposite of all that anger? Something. Tears. So then what happened after 3 days of being essentially in silence? I mean, if I may ask, what was the training, the mentorship like with the Lama?
Yeah. So after that, then I was actually taught the whole meditation practice. I was
Okay.
taught mindful practice, the whole 9 yard about it. But the third day is I slept for straight 12 hours. I don't remember before that I would have ever slept that long.
Hmm.
And when I woke up the fourth day morning, there was something different in me. I didn't have any anger. I didn't have any hunger. I didn't have any thirst.
Hmm.
And the funny thing about this is, towards end of that 2.5 months, I didn't want to go back.
You didn't want to go back home.
I didn't want to go back to normal life.
Were you thinking about then?
Yeah,
I
becoming
mean, when
one of
you're
them.
only 14, I mean,
Yeah,
so you probably couldn't make those decisions yourself,
I could not,
huh?
but
So you
I.
had to, and you had to go back to school, and I'm
Yep.
sure,
hmm
and it was a 2.5 month process.
Training
Gosh,
full. Yeah, that was a very serious spiritual meditative practice training. That now it's been 4 decades now, and even today, there are certain things that I follow. There are certain things, certain times in the day where I don't talk to anyone. I just sit quiet in one room without
you
eyes
know,
closed, without
you did,
eyes open.
yeah. No, it's. I mean, all of us were. I mean, just consider this. You know, you got a hyperactive kid who doesn't seem to focus. I doubt the first thought in your mind was, let's put him on a plane to Tibet. Let's get him a counselor. Let's maybe change his diet. Let's limit
Of
his screen
pills. Yeah.
time. You know, I mean, like our son, when he was younger, had similar issues, and we did just about everything we possibly could. We even gave him brain scans. You know, we're
hmm
trying to, we did brain exercises, you know. He's grown out of that. And his prefrontal cortex, to the reference you made earlier, has come definitely online, and he's now a very responsible young man, which is a far cry from where he was when he was much younger. But so was this a normal thing
No,
in your family or in
no,
your social
not
setting to
not
say, hey,
no.
did you go off to Tibet this year? Oh yeah, I went last year.
Oh no, no,
I
no.
mean, is it like
I
summer camp for those of us who live in northern Minnesota?
Nowhere close. No, it was nothing like that. I don't think anybody. at that age and day that I can, even today, I cannot recollect anyone who actually went there at that age. People do go and explore once they are 20, 23, 24, 25, if they have that spiritual calling. But most 99% people, they never even think about that as a solution.
Well, I think it's a fascinating idea. I think it's incredible that you were only 14 at the time.
Hmm.
I could see that when you're like a young man or, in your 30s or something, the little eat, pray, love, but you're just doing the praying, it's all that. So you come back. How were you a different young man at the age of 14? It's almost like a rite of passage.
It was.
How many times do we do rite of passage for our kids and for
Hmm.
adults,
Hmm.
aside from the gold watch when you're retired? But, this is interesting so you came back. Were you focused? Did your parents say, wow, it
I would,
worked,
I,
or
I,
what?
I would say 85% people who ever interacted with me, they were in disbelief.
Disbelief, what? That you had changed so much, or
Yeah.
that, okay. Like
And my,
you weren't the same guy.
no, I was not the same guy. Uh, well, fight is a very different conversation. I would calm fights. So I
Mm.
went from a person who would start the fight to a person who would now get involved and calm everyone without even holding their hands.
That's great. Do you thank your parents
I
consistently
do
for
every
the
day,
effort and
every
courage?
day, every
Talk
day.
about bold, man.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. I just needed to go back
Mhm.
into that part of your life
You
because
see, I
it
still
sounds like
have,
it was.
I always
I
have
could
this
see it.
mountain behind me.
Yeah. So what is that? Which
So,
mountain is that?
so this is one of the peaks in Himalayas.
Okay. And you were there.
No, I was not there. Nobody has gone on that peak yet.
Okay.
It's a very different peak, very near to it. So where I was is here below. If I extend that picture below,
Yeah.
the monastery is right here. So I could
Okay.
see this every day from the monastery.
Wow. Have you been back since then
Once.
for another spiritual retuning?
No, actually, I spiritual retuning. Yes, I went to meet my lama, my
Okay.
my teacher.
Yes.
This is about 6 years back.
So you'd been 30 years or so
Hmm.
since you saw him? Him?
Yeah.
Got it. I mean, again, I'm fascinated by this. Do you follow a guru?
Yeah, I do. I mean, that's a whole spiritual thing that we have.
Yeah,
So yeah, we do have. I do have a spiritual guru, if you
got
will.
it. And do you feel like that's necessary for this level of mindfulness, or
No,
can a person be this level of mindful with these techniques and practices that you are espousing?
I have seen people change in 12 to 14 days if they practice the simple things that I have been training them on.
But you know what it sounds like this thing is that there's a detox that almost needs to happen.
It is. So my goal is next year, 2026, to start a digital detox center.
That's ironic in some ways because I think one of the things that we need to detox ourselves from is digital world.
That's what I'm
You
saying.
know,
Digital detox. Yeah, it's a
so
digital
oh,
detox
oh,
center.
I see. So you're going to be interacting with people not through
Right.
LinkedIn or Zoom or
Right. Right.
whatever. You're talking about a live setting.
Like, right.
Okay. You're doing that in Florida?
I've started a little bit in the communities.
That's
It's it's
great.
it's it's very interesting and funny. I do some exercises during workshops. So one of the things I'll do is I'll have everybody open their phone, not lock, open
Yep.
the phone, and hand it over to the next guy.
That's great. And it probably they
And
start to
and
cry.
people go like this.
So it's a great. Now you bring up two stories for me. Like so, when I was doing some, I was for a while for 10 years. I trained up and coming GMs with Marriott, and we would go around the world in different places. And I remember this was a while ago, probably 12 years ago, 15 maybe. I was training a group of young leaders in China,
Hmm.
and they were enamored with their phones. And these were like they had made a certain amount of money, probably more so than anybody in their family had ever made. Like they were making it. And these phones were like, oh, I love these babies, right? So I was losing them fast. I was like, I couldn't hold the group.
Right.
So during a break, I go upstairs and they've got these little shoe caddies, little wicker baskets to put your slippers in. So I
Mhm.
grab my little shoe caddy, I come downstairs and I go, okay, you have to give me your phone in order to be in this facilitation. Otherwise, you have to leave. Right? I made it really clear. You think I was asking them for their firstborn child?
Oh yeah,
It was hard. And of course, during the break, everyone could go and get it.
right.
But the other quick piece that I remember reading out of, I think it was Fast Magazine, there was a study done maybe 10 years ago that they had equal aptitude students on a
Mhm.
certain topic, and half of the students were not able to see or interact with any sort of phone. In fact, it was their phones were turned off and out of sight under
Mhm.
their chair. And then the other half of the students could see their turned off phone. It wasn't even on. It was just turned off. They could see it somewhere in the periphery of their vision.
Uh-huh.
And those that saw their phones, even though they were turned off, got a full letter grade lower than those that couldn't. And of
Yep.
course, the empathy and listening and all those sort of emotional intelligence skills also
Mhm.
go down. So there's something to be said for what you're doing.
So here is another tool I'll give to your listeners,
Please.
and this is another workshop I do.
All right.
So when
Bring
I
it.
cut, and this is only in person. I cannot do this virtually because I cannot see what they're doing. But in person, first of all, I will have them, shuffle their phones and everything else just for a joke, just to show them how dependent they are. And then I walk them through a very simple compass framework. So the compass framework really came out was, so my concept is here. The first one I give people is that mindful presence. That's the compass I talked about, presence in the moment. Now, our life gets hijacked by emails and calendars and everything else. So, okay, you became mindful in that one moment. How can you extend that over the day, over the weeks, over the months, right? That's where I have a second piece that comes in that's called pivot. Learn to
Pivot.
pivot. Learn to pivot in every moment that you have. Same thing, pause, investigate what is bothering you,
Hmm.
validate what the true essence of that is, right? And
Hmm.
then organize things to get to the true problem out of the noise, and then take action. You can put this in practice everything that you do in your life. But then the third thing comes in is leaders cannot live alone, right? Leaders cannot live alone. Human cannot live alone. So compass is an assessment where I help people to think about what is their relationship ecosystem,
Hmm.
right? So compass stands for clarity partners, people who can help you see the truth and maintain perspective. Opportunity advocates, people who can champion your growth and connect to possibilities. Then M is for mentors. So mentors are people who help you through their experience, right? Then you have pillars, people who can help you with stability and emotional support. Then you have accountability allies, people who can help you stay committed to your values.
Hmm.
Then soulful connection, people who can understand and connect with you authentically. And then strength amplifier, so I people who can help you believe your capacity and capability. So I walk them through this and I say, okay, you guys are so much attached to your phone, just take out your contacts and give me one person right now. Take 5 minutes and tell me one person for each of these seven categories. Can you find? And
Hmm.
can I pick up the condition is I should be right now able to pick up a phone and ask that person this particular question. So if you picked someone for clarity partner, I can pick up that phone and say, hey, Dean just told me you are his clarity partner. When was the last time you helped him see the truth and change his perspective? You know how many answers I got? It was a
Very
group of
few.
150, zero.
How many? Yeah. Right.
And I said, guys, what is your ecosystem?
Yeah.
At least you should be able to tell me that your spouse is your soulful connection.
Right. Though it's a sad state of affairs when you start putting it into that context. But of course, you can't necessarily make changes until you have the awareness. So now we know I don't have that. Maybe I should go find one. Maybe I should be that for somebody else who then can return the
Exactly,
favor.
exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's the second part of it is what role do you play in other people's role?
Yeah.
right? Your kids, your spouse. Are you spouseful connection for your spouse? Are you the pillar for your kids?
Hmm.
Right? So
So
it becomes very interesting and intriguing conversation. Sorry.
I love this. It's in it. There's so much power in the quality of the question, which then focuses the mind, which then leads to mindfulness, which then
Mm,
leads to self awareness, which then leads to learning and discovery and change and all the other things. But often the spark is the question that gets us down that path.
right.
I love this. This is really good. You're a great guy.
I appreciate it. I
I
try to be
appreciate
humble.
this. But tell me about your books. You said you got one that's out. You
Hmm.
said another one's coming. Give us a little bit of
Right.
background on this, and then also how people can sort of follow this practice of yours, and
Sure.
you in particular.
So I do have the first book that came out was Ascendancy Awakened.
Say that again.
Ascendancy. Ascendancy is a word that is used.
Ascendancy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Awakened. Awakening.
Ascendancy. Awakening.
Awake.
Okay. Ah, got it. Sorry, but I was having a hard
No, that's
time
fine.
through your accent, and I have to just listen
Yeah.
better.
So,
Ascendancy awakened. Wow,
mhm,
that's an powerful. Woo! Those two words are pretty.
break damn powerful.
They
Yeah.
resonate. Ascendancy awakened.
Hmm.
Damn, I like it.
And I'll send you a copy.
Okay,
It's
I will read it.
it's right here. And so I released this one. So this has the four framework that I have been teaching for last few years now.
Okay.
And again, my purpose of getting this book out was even if people cannot get to me, at least they will have something that they can refer to if I'm not here.
You know
The
what
second,
you've become. You know what you've become. It's now full circle. You're now the llama.
in many ways, yes.
Well, it's. I love the fact that you've gone back to your roots to continue on the work that you did as a kid. I think it's great.
And the second book is ready to publish. It can come out any day. I'm hoping Tuesday, Wednesday next week. And that is the Circle Up. The name is Circle Up. And the book is really explaining this compass framework that I just discussed
Okay.
in detail. So it has got one chapter for each of the seven pillars of compass. And each chapter then has got a quick set of 10 questions to help you understand how to identify that individual in your life and how to be that individual in other people's life.
That's great. So this book, I just went on Amazon to find it. It just got published in, am
Yeah,
I right? February of
February.
2025, and
Mhm.
this is May, almost May of 2025. You've got one book that just came out. You got another one coming out today.
Next week, yeah.
I have author envy.
I actually have two more and two more already written. I'm waiting for the right sequence for that.
Do you do this on your own, or do you hire a ghostwriter to help you?
It's all here.
Oh my God!
See,
You can see.
this is Dean. What I teach people, I have been telling people for 4 decades now.
Yeah,
Um, People who have been very close to me, they have seen in themselves the power that this breathing clarity brings to the frontal cortex,
yeah,
right? And I go back to the ransomware attack. When the attack happened, it was 6:15 in the morning. I walk in. That was the first thing I see. The three or four people that were in my direct team started panicking. I just told them, here is, you do this, you do this, you do this. Give me 10 minutes and let's circle back in my room. They came back in my office. I sat all four of them down and I said, okay, we are going back to how we conducted every single freaking meeting. Put your phones down, close your eyes, 30 seconds. What do you want to get outside of this meeting, yourself individually and collectively as the team?
mm-hmm.
And because I have been doing that for them already for last couple of years with the team meetings, every one of them gave exactly what they were supposed to do to help me in that situation in their
Hmm.
role.
Hmm.
And collectively, they all has one common answer. Let's solve this fucking problem.
I'm sure they said that.
At that point, it
So,
was. It was pretty bad, pretty wild.
um, when you go around the room like this and ask people, what is your intention for yourself and for the team? Do you then ask them to share that?
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. And then that's a
it needs to be transferred.
conversation.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's where you find out that why are you sitting here,
Right. That's the second question.
right? Most of the people, they start learning it, and typically what happens is once I join a new team, they start learning this. Within third or fourth meeting, they'll be saying, "I don't need to be in this meeting. I'll follow up in the email." Okay.
That's really good. That's really good. Well, you're fun. I like you. I think this
Thank
is
you.
great. I really do. This is a fascinating story. So you got this one book out already, Ascendancy Awakened.
Hmm.
The second one again, tell me again the name of it.
Circle up
Circle Up. And that's coming out
next week.
next week. And then of course the week after that, there's another book probably, and then another book after that. So
No, I
if you
won't
could
have a
just
few.
maybe every other day, could you get a book out versus once a month?
No, this has been sitting in my head for 4 years, so they just came out now. I'll be transparent on that.
I have so many books in my head, I don't even know where to start sometimes. Maybe
Just
I need to focus and breathe more.
yeah, just that one focus, one deep breath, pen and paper, and this is how I start my book. I'm not kidding. Um, I'll take index card, 100 index cards.
Yeah.
I'll just sit down, close my eyes for 30 seconds, take deep breath, pick up a pen, and just start writing questions after questions after one question on each index card and put it on my table.
Hmm.
My problem is if there is a question in front of me, I have to solve it. I know myself.
Yeah.
So that's how I create focus for me and intention for me that, okay, now I have got this 100 index card that needs answers.
Yes.
So I have to find
There's your
time.
chapters of your book right there. I get it. It's you bring up a great point though. I love the idea of writing these points of awareness down, or as a tool for greater awareness. I used to write as a kid all the time. It was kind of my cheap therapy to get through a lot of stuff. And now my wife and I just came back from a workshop. Chick Pomley
Mhm.
put on a workshop, and I decided I'm going to get back to journaling again, and it makes such a huge difference.
So everybody on the call, anybody who listens to this ever in their life, I challenge. I give them an open challenge, right? And here's a challenge.
Good. We can end on a good drop the mic
Right,
challenge.
right. Uh, think about the word clear.
Clear.
Clear, CLEAR.
Got it.
Clarity, clear, right?
Yes.
Center yourself by taking 3 deep breaths. Locate and notice any tensions in your body or emotional hotspots. Expand, widen your awareness beyond your body and see if you can smell something, feel some breeze, or anything else with your eyes closed. Align, set an intention aligned with a purpose and respond. Take a pen and a paper and write something in less than 5 to 6 words. This is an exercise of micro journaling.
Hmm.
How I help people is I will give them this challenge, do this for straight 12 days without reading. So pick a time in a day. It does not have to be same time. It can be any
Hmm.
time randomly in the day, at least 5 times. Do this exercise. Don't go back and read till the 12th day. So you have 60 data points by end of 12th day if you did 5 only. Then when you take out all those things and read, I can guarantee you, you will see a clear pattern of 2 things. when your emotions are control of you and when you are in control of emotion in the day.
Could you back up for a second? So I got the first part of that exercise. But you had mentioned something around intention and purpose that I wasn't quite sure. Could you say more about that?
Right. So as you take a deep breath and center yourself, you feel your emotions. When
Yep.
you go and widen your horizon, what you're doing is you are opening up other senses beyond your breathing to feel something outside. And at that point, with that feeling, you set an intention.
Intention such as like for the day, for right now, for
That moment,
anything, that
that moment,
moment.
just intention for that moment.
Okay.
That is the
Okay.
easiest way of giving you the most clarity in the moment. And I have got some executives that I tell them, before you walk in a board meeting, do this exercise and write 3 things you want out of the board meeting.
Mm-hmm.
If the board meeting is going nowhere, it happens in board meeting all the time, right? I mean,
Oh,
sometimes something, right? If something is not going your way, just take out a pen and a paper, and you can do this without telling anyone you're doing it. That's the fun part of this exercise. And just write 3 questions that you want to get back to people to focus on. That's the intention right there.
it's so funny. I was just at a board meeting this week, and there was a little piece, a hotspot that came up.
Mhm.
This would have been an interesting. If I wasn't facilitating at that particular point. I was an observer,
Mhm.
but to ask that like these people involved in that hotspot around coming up with 3 questions, to your
Mhm.
point relative to what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, that you would like to have answered.
Mhm.
Yeah, very good. Well, it's been a really actually quite centering conversation. I really
Thank you.
enjoyed this. This has been great. If you ever get
I'll
yourself up to Phoenix or Bend, Oregon, give me a call.
definitely I will.
And
If you're coming south here, let me know.
yeah, or I'll meet
Would-
you in Tibet. I could see you. You could do that. You could end up having a mindfulness workshop in Tibet, and there would be
Uh,
people who would sign up for that just
uh,
because it's Tibet.
yeah, that's because, yeah, not because of
Yeah,
saying it's Tibet. No,
and
I'm
there's got to be
start.
a little small print that says this does not guarantee that you will ever see, interact,
See,
or get
interact
to
or
know
connect.
the Dalai Lama. But we're going to go to Tibet anyway. Please bring warm shoes and
Yeah,
gloves.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's great. Well, it's been really a delight to talk to you, and I really wish you the best in the work that you do. And I look forward to reading one of your books, if not all of them. I may not be. You're probably going to be writing books faster than I can read them.
Well, I think the next 6 months, I'm focusing more on getting out,
Yeah,
getting out to people. I'm doing a lot of. I think I'm doing at least 10, maybe 12 workshop already lined out for next 6 months.
good. And you got a podcast too. You said.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I have
Would
one
you
podcast that.
tell people about that? What's the name of that podcast where they can find it?
Yeah. So the podcast name is Mindful Leadership,
Got it.
Transforming Lives, and every 30-minute live podcast on noon Pacific Tuesday on the Transformation Network. And every episode has at least 2 micro practices that people can take and run with immediately, right this second.
Got it. Okay. Very good. Have a great day. Keep up the
Thank you
good
so
work.
much.
You're
Thank
great.
you.
Thank you for listening to Leadervation with Dean Newlund. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe, rate, and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to learn more about Dean or Mission Facilitators Leadership, go to mfileadership.com. That's mfileadership.com, or check the show notes. Reimagine, facilitate, flourish. Transform your leadership success with Leadervation.